Today's urban talk would be a bit different. As you can already hear, it would be made in English. And for my future videos, it may happen that I sometimes make a video in English. So for my Czech viewers, I hope you'll understand and enjoy the video as well. And for the English viewers, I apologize for my English being not perfect and hope that you will agree that the content is the most important thing. My today's guest will be Pierre XO, which is now Prague-based artist, and to me it is a really interesting person. If you saw some of his videos, I'm sure you'll agree, and if you don't, then do so on his YouTube channel. And the second thing I find interesting about him is he actually moved from LA to Prague, and I want to hear the story, and not only that. So let's get to it.
Who is Pierre XO?
Who is Pierre XO? Pierre XO is an artist, to put it simply, but also a social media fuckboy, and he does a lot of creative things, and he really doesn't know which one he wants to focus on, really.
Okay. And where are you originally from?
I was born in California, next to San Francisco, moved to LA halfway through my life, and got the hell out of there about a year ago. Yeah.
And I cannot mention that your look is really interesting to me. And how did you develop it, and when did you start developing it?
Sure, I would like to say I just was born out of the womb. Just at the hospital.
That's the first look you got, you know?
Yeah, just out of the womb with the headband and the eye makeup and the hair wild, you know. But it took my whole life to kind of develop it. I was going through a lot of different phases. There were times where I dressed super colorful, like 70s funk style with the bell-bottom jeans and stuff, and then would switch back to like all black emo type of thing. And then eventually I would take just direct influences from my inspirations being, Michael Jackson and Prince and David Bowie. And I just really liked that particular era of the late 1980s because everything was so extravagant, very flamboyant, and everyone was super extra, and they never really held back on expressing themselves. So like even Robert Smith from The Cure, and just taking all of those visual influences and then kind of putting it into one, and it's kind of just stuck ever since, really. Yeah.
And I assume, or from my point of view, I presume that you often got a lot of attention from like your surroundings, from people.
Definitely.
Is that true?
Definitely. Like specifically here or just overall in general?
No, you can say like in here and overall also.
Yeah. It's funny because the eye makeup thing was a fairly recent addition, maybe like 5-6 years ago. So when I started wearing it, all of my friends that I already had felt like really weird about it. They're like, "Oh, what's Pierre's
What's this about?"
Yeah, what's this about, man? Is there something you don't want to tell us right now, So they had to really adjust to that thing, but eventually I just kept pushing how far I could go with my look. I was actually even more extreme than I was now, which is hard to believe, I'm sure. But I mean, overall, I got a lot of attention. Surprisingly, I live technically in Orange County, which is next to Los Angeles, a neighboring city, basically. And I'd get a lot of love, definitely, for sure. And I had to deal with a lot of, not violent, but at least passive aggressive. And there were times where I wasn't let into certain bars, or at least I was removed for some reason.
Just for the looks?
Just for the looks, but they wouldn't say it directly. Sometimes it'd be like, "Oh, there's dress code here," but then the next guy has shorts on and a tank top. So it's like, and then, so I mean, a lot of people would just obviously stare a lot, but the staring is not my problem. I don't have any problems with staring. Just when they come up to me or like they try to say something, that's when it gets like, okay, relax,
And in here you got a lot of attention?
Yeah, but what I like about the Czech Republic, specifically Prague, is that everyone's a lot more reserved, except the tourists, you know?
Yeah.
Like everyone who's just from this country or the neighboring Central European countries, they're just a lot more reserved. Everyone's a bit more detached and closed off, which some people don't like. Like a lot of Americans don't like this place, this area of the world because they think it's super rude. That no one is just like, hi, how's it going? It's me, you know? And everyone's just kind of a lot more quiet. I like that personally. So the farthest that anybody really goes is just they just stare at me longer, which is fine because in America,
It's something interesting for them to see.
Yeah. And in America, it's just a little more aggressive. They'll say things out loud or they'll scream something while they're walking by you or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, and I was assuming that this look was influenced by some, I don't know, I see some like Japanese, Asian influence, K-pop or something like that.
Sure.
Is that true?
Yeah, there's a similarity specifically with this Japanese rock movement called Visual Kei. I wasn't personally influenced by it, but I would kind of fit in definitely with it. But I think overall the look is just more inspired by late 1980s almost Western music. You know, but I definitely could fit into the Japanese rock type of thing too, man. But I've been to Tokyo a few times and I really love the fashion there because it's kind of like in a 1980s sense where they go all out, like Harajuku style, you know, with like the buns and like neon clothes and just jewelry everywhere. It's just, that's just what I like in general. So anything that has that kind of thing, I just really enjoy it.
You were saying you're an artist. What's your creative process? What fills your passion about art? What makes you to do art?
Okay, that's a deep one. Ooh. It's interesting. I think ever since I was a kid, I was really into creative stuff and artistic stuff, but I never classified it as art. For example, the first thing that I would end up enjoying as a kid was magic tricks, like playing cards and like watching magic specials, people pulling birds out of nowhere, you know, and that really captured my eye. And from there, I always wanted to be an entertainer or a performer, but I didn't really think of it as an art form ever. But as the years came by, like I would pick up different types of creative activities such as dancing or shuffling, playing cards, magic itself. Even skateboarding could even be considered an art form. And eventually I picked up painting, made a bunch of videos, and eventually started producing music. And in terms of why that came out to be, I think it was just, first of all, I was really bored as a kid. There wasn't much going on in my childhood where I was just like always, I'm an only child, so I didn't have siblings to play around with. So I had to figure out things to do to fulfill my time. But as I got older, and you know, when you get older, you start asking more questions that can't be answered. And the only thing that could even begin to slightly answer any of those questions was through creative work, through actually listening to music or watching videos or making videos or those types of things. And it was, I was always also curious about the inner world, like what's happening inside all of us, the metaphysical world. And I think art is one of the few things that actually can dive deep in those things and try to figure that out. And on top of that, it's just, it's the only thing that you can do to feel liberated or free. You know, you live everyday life working 9-to-5 jobs and people are really like structured with everything. And if you're a creative person, you feel like you need to break away from that. So the only way to break away from it is, you know, creating something, I guess. So I get that feeling of liberation from just making art.
And we were mentioning these ordinary lifestyles. So as any other person, you also have to live in this like structured society. How do you deal with it, and how do you feel how it impacts your creativity?
Ooh, yeah, that's Yeah, okay. So when, as with anybody, you reach 18, 19, and then your parents are like, you got to find a job. You got to like sustain yourself and figure yourself out. And as I think for a creative person, it's really hard to work with, because anything that makes you money in just the day-to-day minimum wage life isn't creative. Then you feel like you're suffocating a part of your soul in order to deal with that. So I remember going through like one of the hardest phases in my life, where I was 18 or 19 or 20 and realizing like, oh my God, I've been doing creative stuff all this time and I'm not getting $1 out of this. Like, how the fuck am I gonna live if I can't do creative work and I have to like sit in an office all day? So it was quite a journey that started even just like in the last 6 years ago, where I had to be like, went through the biggest existential crisis of my life and it sucked it up, got a job selling jeans at Diesel and Urban Outfitters, like in this retail clothing shop. Just thinking like, okay, you know what? Just suck it up, Pierre. Just do what you gotta do here and then work on your creative stuff afterwards or before. And working that lifestyle is also really draining, so you might not have enough energy to do the creative stuff, which is also unfortunate. But at that point, you just really don't have a choice. I mean, you can't just go through life without the job thing. And if anything, it's taught me a lot trying to be a regular human being, because it also gave me the work ethic and structure that I can put into my own creative work. But eventually, during one of these jobs that I was working for about a year, one of my videos went viral. So then from there, I was like, man, this is my chance. Like, this video is blowing up. People are actually listening to me. You know, people are like appreciating what I do. So, hey mom, is it okay if I live at your place for a little for a little bit? And lived back at my parents' place, and then just worked on videos every single day, every single day, every single day. And eventually things started really, really moving. And now I'm finally at a place where I can just do this as a living and really live my life the way I want it to. But it was a really hard few years, and it was really difficult.
And what was that video that went viral?
So it wasn't my personal video. It was with a YouTube company named Jubilee that was in Los Angeles. And they had these shows where they would have a couple sit across from each other and they would talk about their relationship. And they would ask questions like, do you love her? Like, how do you really feel, you know? And it was a very coincidental situation. One of my friends ended up working for this company, and we were already friends before. So he got this job, and randomly, I was already in Los Angeles with this girl that I was temporarily seeing. It wasn't anything serious, but she thought it was. And my friend calls me and he says, hey, 2 people dropped out of a video. Do you want to bring a friend to this? Like, we need someone to shoot today. Okay, sure, why not? Shot the video.
And you made it like more for your friend, or more that you saw some opportunity to do something creative, interesting?
It was both. Yeah. You know, I mean, I was still on my hustle to try to make it somehow in the creative field as an entertainer or whatever else. So I'm always open. I was open to any opportunity. I just never said no to anything. I did so much free work that never amounted to anything. And this was just that one video that I thought was just, we'll see what happens. And it was me and this woman who was twice my age that I had a thing with. And we talked about some pretty personal stuff on camera. Video came out. We broke up. The video came out 2 or 3 months later. And then that has like over 5 million something views right now. And it started everything in my life. I wasn't actually received positively because in the video I seemed like a total fuckboy, total douchebag. And I completely understand why everyone thought that, but I'm really grateful that it happened still. And yeah, from then on, I started my quest into moving here too. And
that was in LA? Or
that was all in LA.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, you was living in LA, and how did you end up living in Prague? Like, there are so many places in the world. Why Prague?
Yeah. Anybody that I tell that are my friends that live out here, they're like, why did you move from California to the middle of Prague? Why? So I lived in California all my life, and eventually I had the privilege of just traveling overseas. So I was like, Europe looks amazing. It doesn't look like anything like we have in America. So I was able to have little Euro trips here and there every few years. And then one trip to Europe I had by myself because I had a giant car accident. Instead of buying a new car, I was like, you know what? I don't want to drive anymore. I'm going to Europe. Let's just see what happens. And I was flying around to different countries, whether it be France, the Netherlands, and Amsterdam, Vienna, Budapest, Stockholm, London. And so I really got to get a brief feel of every city. Overall, I agreed that I really like it in Europe overall than America. All of these cities are 10 times better than my life in California. But for some reason, instead of going to Berlin, as I planned, I decided Berlin in these pictures looks kind of ugly, man. It's not like a pretty city at all. Everyone says I like it, but I need something really pretty. I bought the ticket to Prague, stayed here for a week, but then I extended it to 1 full month because it sounds so corny and cheesy, but there's a certain energy here that just is unmatched with any other city. And the real physical things that I like is every single building is so old and so beautiful in the way that the architecture is designed. Every building has its own little character to it. They have sculptures next to the doorways and holding up the windows. They're these weird neon colors that look like cakes or pastries. Then you look off in the distance and then you see a old castle on the hill. You cross Charles Bridge, and then there's like this river there, and there's birds flying, beautiful sunset in the hills, and it's like this very harmonious city that's physically beautiful, but the way that people go about their day and seeing all of this happen, it's like this weird collective dance with everything happening at once. And then I learned that Prague was like the alchemical capital of Europe for hundreds of years, where all the magicians and astronomers and all of these other magical type of beings would come together all around the world just to, talk about the esoteric parts of life, and that there's just a lot of mystery here that I've been kind of wanting all my life, and I found it in this tiny little city for some reason.
Yeah, as you was mentioning the card tricks you learned and was doing, I was wondering if it would be more for the magic or for the illusion. So it's more for the magic side.
Initially I was drawn to it because it was like, whoa, like how did you do that? I want to know how you did that. And then the more I learned how to do the tricks, I was just more interested on how the trick worked, like the secret behind how the bird came out, as opposed to just watching it. So I was always digging for that deeper truth in the magic trick, but also in my life, where I was always asking questions to find the deeper truth in everything. But at the same time, I always wanted to experience the feeling of just seeing a magic trick for the first time again. You eventually learn too much about stuff, and you just want to experience some sort of wonder again. So coming to Prague again, from LA, where everything is super industrial, no building is taller than just one story. They look like concrete boxes, You don't see anybody walking on the streets because everybody drives everywhere. Everyone's super stressed out. They only care about money. Then in LA, everyone's an actor. So everyone's just kind of playing some sort of character. No one's really honest with you.
Is it really that hard to find some friends, for example, like the real honest people? Is it really that hard?
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard stories, but for me,
I always thinking when someone tells like it's like that, like that, I always see it as a kind of stereotype, which there must be an exception to it,
Right. The exceptions are that certain specific people are great. Like I've had some really good friends in California growing up too, and I've met some good people, had a lot of good times too. But overall, to get to those people is like 100 times harder. And even when you get there, there's still a barrier in between you and them where everybody isn't all there in a weird, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the sun. Maybe we get too much sun there and it just cooks people's brains up or something, man. But really though.
I think what you mean. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. That to find the people where the barrier isn't there.
Right.
That the whole person just came out to you as a completely honest person. You don't have to think about what to think, how to act. You don't have to control yourself. That's, from my point of view, definition of a friendship, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So is there possible to achieve this?
Yes, and so to kind of backtrack a little bit, the stereotype is kind of true just because of how everything's set up, where a lot of business transactions are made just through friendships, where people network to meet people so that you can get somewhere from somebody, because that's how Los Angeles works. You pretend like you're good with everybody, that way you can get a job at a new movie, right? So everybody's just trying to play this game to try to get something from each other. So even if you do meet somebody honest, you never know if they actually are, because you think everyone's playing this game and half of the time they actually are. Everyone's acting like they're in a movie, you know, and you really see that through people's interactions. Like the stereotypical American in Europe goes, "Oh my God, this is like, hi, like, I love you already," you know? And then on top of that, say if you do meet somebody that's super honest, super cool, and you get along just great, to meet up with them is such a task, because it's an hour to go from LA to LA. You know, there's so much traffic to even be in the same city. It's about an hour and a half. So even to schedule appointments with somebody, you can't just take the 22 tram and then walk one, block to your friend's apartment to film this. If we did the same thing in LA, this would be a whole day process, because you would have to drive here after rush hour traffic, which is only 12 to 1 o'clock. We film this for like 6 hours because of whatever reason, then you have to drive like so it's just really inconvenient to even stay connected with the people that you actually do like. It's hard.
So that was like the main reasons why you basically moved here.
Yeah. At this stage in my life, I still wanted to be successful in the creative field or industry, but I learned already that this wasn't what the meaning of life was for me. I just didn't only want to be a superstar and be super rich and then have to deal with the rush hour traffic and a bunch of actors and fake people around me, because I wouldn't like my day-to-day life at all. But when I actually flew to Prague for the first time, the way that we met was like a film. I met a really good friend out here where he was playing piano in the back of some cafe, and we just ended up talking. He invited me out to meet his friends. We go to like some abandoned warehouse, and then I meet his friends, and then his friend, I meet somebody there, and everybody that I talked to was like a super honest, genuine person. They weren't trying to get anything out of me. It's just not the mentality out here. Depends who you talk to, and I'm still making new friends to this day, and they're all just really honest, sometimes rude and brutal with their honesty, but I much prefer that, because at least you know where you stand with people. So that's kind of what I was looking for, is like a deeper sense of connection and community. And I got that out here, where in LA, I was trying. I was like starting my own little art collectives for years, and there was just, I don't know what it was. The energy was off there, and it never actually turned out okay. Come here for a year, and boom, I'm living my dream in every way. So it works out for me, I guess.
Okay, I was looking at your channel and your Instagram, and you have like 60,000 followers on Instagram and 136, I think, subscribers on YouTube. So is that does that make you a celebrity? Are you a YouTube celebrity? Are those numbers for call yourself a YouTube star or celebrity?
It really does depend on the scale you're comparing it to. In LA, I would not even be on the top 1,000 YouTubers because they're all in LA and they're huge. They have like 10 million subscribers. What's low in LA is like 1 million subscribers. Maybe out here in Central Europe, I would be considered fairly big to a point where I can get recognized on the streets sometimes, So it really does depend on what scale and where you are located and stuff. But
is it happening to you, like in Prague?
Yeah,
Recognizing you.
It actually happened yesterday, where I was because honestly, even just walking on the streets now, and I've lived it for a year, it's like the first time I see the streets. So I just literally sometimes just walk around and look at everything for the first time again, and it's still just as magical. And I hear my name, like Pierre. I'm like, I look, and I'm not sure if I met her before or not, but I didn't. She just recognized me from YouTube, so I give her a hug. And then I look behind me, and it's her boyfriend, and he's looking so pissed. Like, he's looking so angry at me. I'm like, so I was like being extra nice to him. Like, hey, so where are you guys from? You guys like it out here? It's absolutely amazing. I'm sure you'll love it out here. But he ended up being okay. But it's just one of those funny experiences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And so you basically make a living out of YouTube today?
Yeah.
So it's a huge part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
How that influence you? That the social media are so big part of your life?
Yeah.
Are you like enjoying it or?
Right. I am guilty of being almost completely integrated on social media. Every single day I'm on it for hours at a time.
When were you born?
1993.
Okay.
So I'm 26 now.
Okay.
And I had to think about that. How old am I? But now I'm at a stage where social media is part of my everyday life. Mm-hmm. Not only because it's my job, but I have a lot of friends that I've met through the internet that I still talk to regularly through the live streaming or just even through DMing and just voice chats and stuff like that. And I've met so many people that are my really good friends just through the internet. And it's this weird middle ground because, most people aren't made to just healthily live on social media like that, where it can really mess with your brain in that way. A lot of people feel more anxious and depressed because they're just constantly scrolling through stuff. And for me, I kind of have this backwards thing where I really need it to survive in a lot of ways. And I think I just adapted to the situation where I just have figured out a way to utilize it, integrate it in my everyday life. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy it a lot, actually. But when I go out into nature and stuff, I freak out, man. Yeah.
So you kind of can deal with that bad influence of the social media, like that almost dependency, addiction thing.
Yeah.
Or the unhealthy comparison with other people, or.
Yeah. It's all there. I don't deny it at all. I'm not even a type of person that is to say that social media is only a good thing, because it really isn't.
And like, you had to fight with it, or you just are the kind of person who never inclined to it, so it's like, no problem for me.
I definitely did fight with it for a while. I had before I even started the YouTube channel and stuff, I had such a resentment towards what I saw on social media, because it was so superficial and so empty. What all the content that was being made, where a lot of top YouTubers don't talk about anything insightful. It's just a bunch of content that's just like
just to fill those 10 minutes.
Exactly. Right. And I saw all that, the Instagram and influencers that don't influence anything, and the YouTube influencers that don't post anything meaningful. So I actually reached a point where I told myself, and I remember this night where I was so mad when I was watching some dumb YouTube video about nothing, and that had 11 million views. I was just like, okay, this is such a great tool. YouTube and social media and all this stuff, you can send so many good messages and send such insightful stuff on this platform. Yet so little people are using it for that reason. And you know what? Like I can't wait around for the next person to actually talk about something meaningful. I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. I'm gonna try to become an influencer, and I'm gonna integrate something deeper within this platform. So because I decided to do that, I can tolerate all of the negativity on social media much more because I decided to approach it in a different way, where now every video that I make, every Instagram post, I make sure I add something that has a little more value than just me going, you know?
Yeah. So you kind of do your own part against this empty content.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that first viral video that I made, everybody thought it was that fuckboy or, douchebag character. So I got a lot of hate for that. Like I was at the receiving end of social media negativity. I was the target for a while. Everyone's just like, it was like 80% of the comments was just talking shit on me. And some of them were just like brutal, and they were just like calling me names and how terrible I was. Like literal 3 paragraphs of just analyzing who I am and just ripping apart who I was. So at first, it was a lot to handle. I was like, Jesus Christ, like my Instagram went from 5,000 to 30,000 in a week, and then the hate comments here, and so I was on a roller coaster for a while, and these comments eventually started kind of like getting to me a bit. And I made a video just 4 months ago, which was 2 years after the original video, where I was like, you know what? It's been 2 years, I haven't said anything. I'm gonna make a video explaining my position. And I explained how I felt about the comments. Like, those were mean. I'm not really like that. This is why. I feel like this is because of this. And the weirdest thing happened. Instead of getting more hate for it, people listened to the entire 40-minute video, and then they would apologize to me in the comments, which was so new on the internet. People are supposed to be trolls and ruthless animals on the internet, but then these real people on the internet are now apologizing to a stranger. Because I thought no matter how much you try to justify yourself, you would think people would just still be mean to you and still be ruthless. But they really looked at me like a real person, and they responded to me like a real person, which was really cool to see.
If we go back to your experience here in Czech, one of the things that interests me is, are you any kind of religious people, or do you believe in something? Because Czechs are considered like the most atheist country in the whole Europe. So how do you feel about this?
So as a kid, I would recite Buddhist prayers, but never really was that Buddhist. And then I met a mentor in the magic shop that I would frequent, and he taught me a lot about skepticism and atheism in general. So I was like an atheist in my angsty, edgy teen years. And then had a lot of psychedelic usage later in my life, which kind of opened my eyes up to maybe there's something else beneath everything. So I would say now I'm a more agnostic. I don't deny that there's a God, and I don't fully believe that there could be one. Just like, I don't know, but I do believe that there is something bigger. And you could call that gravity or just the universe or whatever. I don't know if maybe it is an old man in the sky, who knows, But I definitely do think that there's something a lot bigger. I find it really ironic that everyone out here is atheist, and it's the most metaphysical city in Prague. It used to be the city of magicians. And
I would actually like to, from those people, if someone would tell I am an atheist, I would be interested in the definition of what did you mean? What do you mean by it? Try to explain me what's an atheist. Like you don't believe in anything. That's, in my opinion, that's not true. You have to have something. If you can't like name it, and it's okay probably, but you know you like believe in something. You tend to, your mind tends somewhere. It isn't like this hopeless human being not believing in complete anything.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting to me that Czech Republic is full of atheists.
Right. Right.
Which probably isn't true. I don't think so.
Yeah, sometimes when I deal with the Czech postal service, I become an atheist for a second. Like there is no God here with the mail service, man.
Maybe there, yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, like it's weird because there's still people that appreciate the amount of churches here and like have a very deep appreciation for art. It depends who you ask in general, but like for the people that I've met, there's still a very deep understanding of art and appreciation of music and film and theater and all of these things, which are more metaphysical things to enjoy. And even though that no one really believes in a God, they still admire the churches, you know, and they still celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Christmas out here.
Yeah.
It's like a party when it's Christmas, man. And I really enjoy that, you know, even though people aren't extremely religious fanatics like back in America. They have more traditions and more rituals and more like bonding activities that religion is supposed to give you, but they still do it without it, which is amazing to me.
I noticed you were on Prague Fashion Week.
Oh yeah.
Walking as a model. So you do modeling too?
Occasionally.
Or is it like new thing in your life? Or?
I've done some modeling and stuff back then as well. It was never like a passion of mine. You know, if I'm called up to do it pretty much, or if there's just a certain opportunity, I'll maybe just apply and just see what happens. Most of the time it's just being reached out to me. And with this particular Prague Fashion Week, I was friends with the designer, Naut. The brand is Naut. And then he asked me to walk for it, and some pretty interesting things happened afterwards. And I think it's a racially based thing. We don't have to get into it, but I made a video for it. But
okay.
Other than that, the experience was really cool, man. I've walked a few fashion shows. It's funny. I try to do all of this stuff back in LA, like walking fashion shows, being in music videos and all this stuff, and it was so hard. I come here for a year. You know, I've walked to like multiple fashion shows. I've been a part of a few music videos already, and like my life really started taking off once I moved here. All the stuff that I wanted to do back in LA, it happened in 1 year out here.
That's interesting because people in here, from my point of view, they are thinking the exact opposite, you know, that the life happens there. The star, I became a star there, not here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it technically did for me in a sense. Like in that one Jubilee YouTube video in LA, that's the one where I did technically become a star. But the type of work and opportunities that I want to work with are out here. You know, people that are more interested in the deeper meaning of things, like you, where you're looking for more underground artists, where in LA it's more like, you know, how do we capitalize and market something to its fullest potential? Let's make it the most commercial thing where it gets 300 million views in one day type of thing. And it's just a different way of working with creative work. And that kind of stuff, I just can't be around it, you know?
Yeah. And after all, you enjoyed it? The Prague Fashion Week?
Yeah, definitely. It was
Have
really...
you seen some other like shows, exhibitions?
In terms of during Fashion Week?
Yeah.
No, because I think I would have to buy a ticket to see the other shows. So I was already, since I was already part of the show, I just happened to be there. And it was great. It was a really cool experience.
Did you notice this brand, what's it called? ODV.
The naked one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't...
That kind of make most of the buzz for this year.
Right. I didn't... I wasn't there for that day. I was walking the day after that one. But it would have been interesting to be there to see that.
I was just interested in your view on it. Like it was basically promoting some thought about the sustainability
Right.
of fashion, and how like if you want a sustainable fashion, it's basically no fashion because anything. So I was kind of interested if you got some look on it, some point of view on it.
Yeah, I think the conceptually it's fantastic. I really like the idea, the statement that it was trying to make. So, if you can clarify, was she trying to say that if anybody wants actual sustainable fashion, you can't wear anything? Is that like her statement with
To
it?
my
or-
understanding, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
In my understanding, she was trying to point out that one on the one level is like try to focus on sustainability, but 100% sustainable fashion is non-existing fashion.
Right.
So the conclusion from there is like reuse and small local support of your fashion designers at your place and something like that probably.
I see.
But to me, it was also like this non-consistent idea.
Yeah. Right. It's a little.
I was not
middle,
sure
right?
what to think of it and
Yeah.
what she really tries to say.
Yeah. Well, in terms of that concept, I mean, you could apply it to many other things. For example, hardcore veganism and hardcore like anti-capitalism type of thing where it's like, you know, you would like to live a life that is outside of capitalism where you don't want to be such a consumerist buying the next iPhone every whatever, and then you don't want to go to like fast fashion brands like H&M to buy whatever you need, and then but at the same time you don't want to pay what is it like 10,000 crowns for a sustainable T-shirt, right? So I think there's a compromise in terms of, you know, you want to better the world in one way or another, but you have to compromise like what's just more practical. You know, I mean, I love the idea of veganism, but I'll often make jokes about the situation is because when you try to eat lunch with a friend that's vegan, it's like you have to go through 30 different restaurants before you can, you feel like you're back in communist times trying to search for food anywhere, you know? So there's just, I think, a limit. Like for me, I'm not the biggest consumerist. I don't promote just buying things just because, you know, you do it. But at the same time, it would be really cool to have a random purple sculpture of a rabbit sometimes, you know? Or just like there's certain things that...
And in the sense of fashion, how about you? How do you think about what you wear? Where do you buy it?
Yeah, I don't think about it as much as I should, you know? I don't think about how it's made because half the stuff is made from sweatshops too. Unfortunately, I consider the price of things first, you know, and that's another thing, practicality over the other thing. It's like, I don't want to exactly promote, you know, child labor in the middle of mainland China where kids are working 10-hour days to make a shirt. But at the same time, you know, I don't want to spend that much money on my clothes. All these clothes are clothes that I've had for 3 to 4 years. So I guess that's my movement in the sustainability of it. I try not to buy new stuff all the time. And a lot of the stuff is black and it goes with pretty much everything. And I don't think about my personal fashion as much as the overall style of it. I don't think about brands. I don't think about what's trendy. It's just what one piece feels at that moment that I'll end up wearing over and over again for the next 2 years, you know?
Yeah, okay. One last question about this place.
Right.
Do you think it's your last stop, like Prague?
My last stop. Honestly, in terms of living, I think so. There might be times where I'll travel to other places and maybe temporarily live there at max, maybe a year, for maybe a job, or I don't know, I find a lover somewhere, decide to stay there extra long. But other than that, in terms of a place that I can always go back to, that I can call home and feel comfortable in, it's definitely Prague. And I don't think I'll ever permanently move from this location. I'll always definitely come back.
Okay, at the end of this talk, I have some deeper questions.
Sure.
What do you find as biggest achievement in your life?
The biggest achievement.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are a few layers of what I consider an achievement. So I'll start off with personally. Like a personal achievement is actually moving out here. This is something that I never thought would be possible in the first place, because I actually hadn't really fully lived on my own in terms of paying for all of my bills. My parents would support me quite a bit when I lived in California. So the first time I ever really moved out of the house, it was to a foreign country. So I've always wanted to live out here in Europe. I didn't know where. It was just a dream. I look at the paintings and my cardboard box of a room of Europe and be like, God, it would be so good to live there. And to go through the severe amount of depression and suffering back in my day, I was able to work myself out of that and then somehow actually uproot, succeed in terms of my entertainment career where that video went viral, and at the same time, a year after, move to my dream country. That was the biggest personal achievement that I think I've ever had to this day. I've never done anything as big as that.
And what was your family saying to that? Like, I'm leaving to Europe.
Obviously, like any parent would, they're like, oh, well, that's really far, Pierre. We're gonna miss you, you know?
How often do you see them?
I haven't seen them for a year or so. We just FaceTime and talk to each other, and that's okay. But I told them, like, if you got to come out here, you know, you have to come out here if we're gonna meet again, because you really have to see what I find in this place. I really want them to see that there's more to the world than just LA traffic, and but they accepted it because they knew how miserable I was. Like I was just such a miserable piece of crap living in their house, being so sad all the time, and they obviously as parents don't want to see me that sad, and they accepted to the point where, all right, even though he's going to be living overseas, at least he'll be happy. So then eventually they understood.
And what made you sad in that time? What was that?
Sorry?
What made you sad at that time?
Okay. Like that I'm moving?
Before that, you were saying that your parents saw you always being sad.
Oh, okay. What made me sad?
Yeah, what was the reason?
It was along the lines of what we were talking about, of feeling so disconnected with everybody around me. And then to meet anybody, I had to drive hours away. So then I would just stay at home by myself a good amount of the day. And then I never felt fully connected with people. And even if I met with people, the American way is just let's party, you know, let's just party and never really talk about anything. So it was fun to party in. It was fun to just have fun, but you never got deeper with anybody there. And I became kind of that partier, you know. I was rock and roll musician with my band, and we would throw parties and have a bunch of people over, and we would drink and do whatever, but we never really got close. It was just...
One day you just realized, I want something more.
Yeah, I wanted something more, but on top of that, my parents sold the studio that we all stayed at. So we went from like this huge music studio that we all lived in, gone, tiny house. So it was just another layer of like, I want something more. I can't just keep living this lifestyle. Now I'm living in a tiny house with no friends, and because we had to move further away, so I couldn't even see them anymore. I was just so miserable. Like, well, I mean, how do I? And then on top of that, I got back from Prague, seeing what my dream looks like, then to that house. So it was like, gah. But it was almost like the universe almost kicking my ass in a way to show me what I need to do. So if it wasn't for those situations, I wouldn't have moved out here, I think.
And last but not least, a really, really easy one is after you wake up, what makes you stay out of the bed and start a new day?
You know, it's funny, you say it's simple, but for some reason I'm overthinking the situation.
There was irony, there was always irony.
That's funny, I'm really thinking about it now. The ironic part is that lately, I haven't been wanting to get out of bed because I'm just so cozy, you know? It's
That's
colder
the
outside,
moment. Yeah.
just staying warm. In terms of now, I'm gonna make the question a lot deeper than it is, but so finally, I'm out of survival mode. For the last year, it was like learning to teach English, trying to find a job. You know, I had a girlfriend and we broke up in the middle of everything, and I moved to a new place all by myself, had to worry about the finances, about the money. Am I gonna be able to pay for this? I'm freaking out, gotta eat, you know? So I was just in survival mode for the last year. So then now for the last few months, it's more of, okay, I'm okay. You know, I don't have to worry so much. I have the flat and I can pay for everything. And then now I can finally focus on my bigger mission, which is to spread my message in hopes to bring more optimism and positivity and meaning to my platform and whoever wants to listen to it. So now I feel a lot more driven to finally focus what I was originally planning on doing, which is to somehow provide people a sense of purpose and meaning in their lives. And it's a good thing to wake up to in the morning, man.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, man.
And thank you, man. Of course.
Thank you guys for watching, and if you liked it, please hit that subscribe button, leave me a like or a comment, and stay tuned for the next videos.